This is an airplane, the safest means of transportation. But you see, zzz, airplanes can crash. Like every other tool made by man, they are machines. However, they are called the safest means of transportation because of the high level of technology deployed to enable aircraft fly. You know what else, however, can increase the chances of a plane's crashing? I tell you, it could be negligence, could be negligence by engineers, pilots, operators, or sometimes even inspectors, regulatory inspectors. Have we forgotten so soon the dark days of civil aviation in Nigeria where planes were dropping from the sky, ending the lives of many whom could have become solutions to Nigeria's problems today? The Ncaa, as government regulator of this industry, has a lot of functions to do to guarantee safety, because safety is the crux of aviation. Aircraft, the means of transportation. When operators purchase aircrafts, safety is the target. These aircraft must be inspected by Ncaa's inspectors and then certified, fit, airworthy for you to travel by. And by you, by the way, I mean the 1%ers in Nigeria who can afford to fly. Most times the elite. I'm getting somewhere. When I get to why I mentioned elite, and I'll explain to you. Now see, for every aircraft brought into Nigeria to operate, the Ncaa's inspectors need to test, inspect, and certify. Now, there are different aircraft types. That's why all of the airlines regularly train and retrain their pilots and their engineers. Because flying different aircraft is not like driving a Toyota and therefore knowing how to drive a Honda. Every aircraft comes with its own type rating. So, by ICAO standards, which are global, you must train and retrain regularly and be certified for each kind of aircraft you're flying. What then does the regulator do? The regulator's inspectors must also train and retrain to be ahead, more knowledgeable than the personnel of the operators. Why? Because if you are the one who is going to regulate someone, you should know better. You should be better trained, more disciplined. What does it take to train, therefore, the staff of the CAA? Funding. These trainings are very expensive, and by ICAO rules, they must be done every year in, year out, training and retraining, training and retraining. Now imagine the danger here. The CAA inspector goes to inspect this aircraft. He has little to no knowledge about the kind of aircraft he's seen, or he knows less than the operator's personnel. So what happens is that he goes to this aircraft, does a nonsensical job which leads to compromise. When he compromises and certifies the aircraft, declares it airworthy for you and I to fly in. This is what happens. So, everybody from elite to the most minute will die. If the staff of the CAA are not regularly and well trained, it leads to corruption, it leads to compromise. More planes crash in Nigeria. There is a reason right now why planes are not dropping out of the skies in Nigeria. Because this CAA, under the leadership of Captain Chris Onana-Jomo, takes training and retraining extremely seriously. Extremely seriously. How would you feel if staff of the CAA are rendered incompetent and therefore unable to do their jobs? Again, I warn, it will lead to corruption and therefore compromise, thereby affecting safety. Ultimately, the question is this what we want? And it does not start and end with just safety and inspection of aircraft alone. I'll tell you why. Beyond the inspecting of aircraft to check for airworthiness and your safety, there's also economic regulations. Here in the CAA, we have a directorate named Air Transport Regulations that are in charge of the economic regulations. Without the knowledge and expertise of this directorate, everything goes wrong economically as far as civil aviation in Nigeria is concerned. Imagine that these people here do not know the math of the business of civil aviation, of air transport. Imagine that they know nothing about bilateral service agreements, BASAs. Representing Nigeria in negotiations with international and any other airlines will always work to the detriment of Nigeria. Always, all the time. So these people regularly go for trainings as well, because a very critical aspect. Because economic regulations also influence and affect trainings and inspections. Now, the star of the moment these days, consumer protection. Never before in the history of civil aviation in Nigeria have air passengers been as protected as they are today. The personnel working, we have at the CAA today 268 consumer protection officers working across 23 airport terminals in Nigeria. Each one of these persons must be trained. They must know Part 19 of the CAA Regulations 2023. They must understand how consumer protection regulations work abroad in better climes. That way they are able to apply that knowledge for your protection, the protection of your rights and responsibilities in Nigeria. So, 268 for just this directorate. By the way, this is the largest directorate in the CAA. Proud to say. Okay, so apart from our inspectors, DATR, and consumer protection, we also have what we call aeromedical. These are the people who deal with the mental health of pilots and cabin crew, ensure that pilots are fit to fly in Nigeria. You know, aviation medical issues is highly specialized and different from malaria and typhoid. So these people need to be on their toes at all times. How do they do their job? They train. Even regular doctors, they know how much they spend to train to become doctors. What do you think about aviation medical people? Lots of money. We have also aviation security. Don't forget that. We call it AFSEC. Now, the airports, the people you come face to face with are fan security. Who do you think regulates them? The Ncaa Aviation Security Directorate. To regulate anybody, you need to know better than them. That's why you are the one telling them, setting the standards, saying, these are the standards you must comply with. So it's necessary, unavoidable, mandatory for the regulator to be better trained than the service providers. Otherwise, what standards are you setting, right? We have also the Ncaa, what we call DAS. This is the Directorate of Aerodromes and Airspace Standards. Or is it airport now? Huh? Airspace. Okay, so I was right the first time. You see, she's correcting me. That's how we work together. We are able to do this as a team. That's what we're doing in the CA. So now, these guys are in charge of aerodromes and the airspace, right? They determine for the airport authorities, including the air navigation service providers, height clearances. Someone spell height for me. Is it H-I-H-E? Height clearances at the airport. For instance, what should be the maximum height of the masts around the airport, other buildings around the airport? Because it's not commonsensical. It's training. It's training, and ICAO standards. Without proper training, all of these moving parts working together to run the industry efficiently, smoothly, and safely would collapse. There'll be failure. What we would have is mediocrity. If the regulator is mediocre, it means that the entire ecosystem collapses and fails. CPD alone, 268. DAS has over 200, and Directorate of Licensing has over 200. As a matter of fact, the CAA has over 2,000 staff, all of whom must be extremely well trained, better than all of the service providers that we regulate. If you cut the funding, you kill the entire ecosystem. This is so important that members of the National Assembly, House of Representatives, and the Senate, who are on the Aviation Committee themselves, must be trained. National Assembly, NAS. Members of the aviation committees and both houses must be trained, because what are you oversighting if you don't know what you're doing, right? So annually, these esteemed lawmakers themselves must also be trained. These trainings don't come cheap. They don't come cheap, because we train at ICAO, IATA, and all of the best training institutes around the globe, right? They don't give a different price, rebated price for Nigerian trainings or Nigerian trainees. We are charged premium dollar, top dollar for all of these trainings. Let's not forget overhead costs. Let's not forget that staff of the Ncaa also take salaries as well. The staff of the Ncaa are among the least remunerated regulators in Nigeria. Food for thought. By way of closure, one has been seen all over the social media and traditional media that buying of equipment is more important than the regulations. Let me tell you something. If you buy equipment today, equipment have lifespan. Say you buy air navigation equipment today, you don't need to buy them every year. That will be scam. Watch out for anybody who wants to repeat buying the same equipment every year. So say the equipment for air navigation systems 4 years, or say 10 years even, depending on what kind of equipment we're talking about. How is this more important? Because who's going to regulate this person and this equipment if these persons are not training every year? Let's also not forget, most importantly, that the trainings are not mandatorily every year. The trainings can come earlier than every year. There are occurrences that happen suddenly in the aviation ecosystem that lead to new protocols that everybody must get up on schedule and go train for. After 9/11, the way aviation security operates changed forever. Newer protocols, stiffer measures at the airport. So nobody bargained for this. But when it did happen and newer protocols came, everybody in the entire ecosystem all over the world had to go train for the new protocols. So some of these things nobody budgets for. They come unplanned. How is this more important than this? Trainings and retrainings. Who regulates this? Because the equipment without regulatory protocols are useless on their own. Those equipment become weapons rather than assets. Think about it. Now, because this management has strived very hard to abide by ICAO standard and recommended practices, SAPs, right? The CAA has been able to be alive to its responsibilities. But the thing is that all of these things cost money. The failure of these guys here will lead to Nigeria having more cases of drunken pilots. Because the inspectors, if they do their job right, means that we're able to eliminate this scenario. The reason it is kept at barest minimum is because the CAA is doing its job properly. Those officers would not know how to do their jobs if they are not trained and retrained. Nobody just sits at home and is able to attain world-class levels without proper training. Without these guys, operators will be cutting corners a lot. Not too long ago, the operations of some airlines in Nigeria were suspended because of lack of financial health. Also, this might be seen as a dig, but it's not, it's a fact. If the CA is not allowed to perform its regulatory oversight properly, apart from having drunken pilots, operators who are cutting corners, the message is that the roads are not runways. When airlines and other operators are financially unhealthy, they must cut corners. If they cut corners, your safety is at risk. I hate to say it in the way that it needs to be said. The truth is the outcome of all of these things, if not properly handled, everybody, once again, will die. Because unlike every other industry, unlike every other regulatory agency, the CAA regulates an industry that almost every mistake results in the fatal loss of lives. Take CBN, for instance, Central Bank of Nigeria. If any bank goes under, there's insurance or some intervention of sorts that ensures that depositors can get their monies back. Here, if a mistake happens, there's no money to be gotten back, everybody dies. Who flies the most in Nigeria? Not just the elite. Some of our best brains fly. Remember school pupils, bright pupils, students whose lives tragically were lost not too long ago? Under this administration, we have said, not on our watch. Not on our watch will Nigerians fall from the skies. That is why we are desperate to ensure that we are able to keep our staff trained, retrained, and professional in compliance with every ICAO rule. The standards in aviation are global. The same standards apply to all states across the world. Nigeria cannot do it differently. There is no better way to do it than this way. And for every item recommended that we fail, we'll fail audits, and therefore we'll have chaos and bedlam in our industry. But you know why Nigeria has broken records in recent audits? Because under Captain Najomo and the guidance of the Honorable Minister Festus Keyamo, we have to always remember to add this one, SAN. Under their leadership, Nigeria has passed record figures in ICAO audits because we have ensured that this got done. Now, given the number of personnel that the CAA has today, and given the fact that standards are always being raised by ICAO for the sake of safety, given global recession as well and inflation, the cost of trainings is permanently on the rise. So, as things stand today, the CAA is underfunded. Staff of the CAA are some of the least paid and respected regulatory personnel in Nigeria. But because our job involves saving lives, keeping people safe, we do our job regardless. So, what nation will not take seriously an agency like this one. The CAA is not set up to generate revenue. Funding for the CAA only comes from ticket sales charges, 5% of ticket sales in Nigeria. Have you noticed that international airlines don't even complain about this thing? But that's a matter for another day. If there suddenly begins a concerted effort to further diminish what comes to the CAA to be able to keep the industry moving as safely as possible, you would want to ask the question, why? What is the motive, the rationale behind this? In part 2 of this video, we're going to break down some of these reasons. But we'll all still come back to the same conclusion. Nobody who means well for Nigeria will be toying with the operations of the CAA. Nobody. Imagine that the protection of your rights and responsibilities are left just to the operators. Imagine that each operator is allowed to operate how it likes according to its own rules. Before now, how often could any passenger file a complaint on consumer protection related infractions in Nigeria? Today, things are different. Your voices are being heard by personnel who work 24 hours. Your cases are being resolved. The highest volume of passenger ticket refunds, passenger compensations, hotel accommodation, and whatnot. Why do we think that's happening? Because the officers are now better trained. It costs money. I'm here today. My name is Michael Achimogu, Director of Consumer Protection and Public Affairs at the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Ncaa. I'm here to say today, allow the Ncaa operate optimally. To toy with what the CAA is doing right now, because you don't fix what's not broken. The way the CAA is operating at the moment is quite tight, but we are getting the job done. To tamper with any of these things do not only place us in the bad books of Ncaa, but also put the most critical aspect of civil aviation at risk: safety. This is not open for argument. This is not something to do back and forth with. Safety first, safety next, and safety third.